From the very first shot of Iron Man, you know this isn't going to be your average superhero film. The camera opens on Tony Stark, drunk, wearing an expensive suit, riding in a military convoy, and in that single moment, the filmmakers tell us everything we need to know about him without saying a word. He's charming, reckless, brilliant, and completely unaware of the consequences of his actions. That's the genius of this film. It's more than just a superhero story. It's a character study of a man on the brink of transformation. Tony Stark is a billionaire, playboy, and a technical genius. The kind of character who could easily be one-dimensional in the wrong hands. But here the film gives him depth, motivations, and a moral arc. And this is exactly why Iron Man works so well as the launch pad for what we know now as the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This isn't just the debut of a superhero, it's the debut of a universe, and so much of the MCU's future tone, aesthetic, and structure is built right here. At its heart, Iron Man is about corruption, not just corporate corruption, but the corruption of intention and the realization that good intentions can still lead to disaster. Tony believes he's helping the world by building weapons, only to have one of those very weapons fall into the wrong hands. The moment he wakes up in the cave, injured and betrayed, is the wake-up call that sets his transformation into motion. It's a visual and thematic metaphor. Stark is literally impaled by his own creation, a symbol of how even his genius can be corrupted when unchecked. This focus on corruption and not simply good versus evil elevates the film above the typical superhero narrative. Sure, there's action, explosions, and an eventual battle, but the film asks us to question who the real villains are and what morality looks like in a world where the lines aren't so clear. Tony's journey isn't about punching bad guys, it's about confronting the consequences of his own hubris. And speaking of consequences, Robert Downey Jr.'s performance is absolutely central to why this film works. His portrayal of Tony Stark is magnetic, witty, and layered. From the flippant humor to the moments of vulnerability, Robert Downey Jr. really makes you want to go on this journey with him. The genius of the performance is that you root for Tony even as he makes mistakes and you feel every beat of his growth. Without him, the MCU may have never taken off. The first act of the film excels at setting up Tony Stark as a character. We see his brilliance in action, his arrogance, and his moral blind spots. Flashbacks and clever visuals show us just how he thinks, why he does what he does, and what drives him. It's clear from the start that he needs a change, a heart, if you will. His physical injury mirrors his lack of moral and emotional grounding. By the time the film reaches the cave sequence, we understand that Tony's want is not just to survive, but to prevent his weapons from harming innocent people. This need to develop a heart isn't just metaphorical, it's central to his character arc. At the start of the film, Tony's life is glamorous, full of wealth, fame, and power, but it's fundamentally hollow. He's brilliant, yes, but that brilliance has been used to serve profit and ego rather than meaningful purpose. The Tony Stark everyone sees is a mask, a persona built to entertain, impress, and dominate social spaces, while the real Tony, capable of empathy, responsibility, and moral awareness, is buried beneath layers of charm and recklessness. His damaged chest isn't just a literal injury from the cave, it's a physical manifestation of the emotional and ethical void he carries. This need for a heart extends to all aspects of his life. His relationship with Pepper, which is tentative and flirtatious but lacks true emotional grounding, his company, which operates on a principle of profit above conscience, and his interactions with the world, which are often superficial or self-serving. The film carefully shows that Tony's genius alone is not enough. To truly be a hero, he must learn to care deeply, to act responsibly, and to connect with others in a meaningful way. Without that heart, Iron Man would just be a suit of armor, powerful but hollow, and Tony Stark would remain trapped in the charade of being a man he doesn't yet fully understand. This is where the film's only significant weakness shows itself. Tony's wants and needs are established, but the antagonist doesn't actively oppose him until later. Obadiah Stane, while certainly corrupt, largely operates in the shadows for the first half of the film. The result is a second act that drags slightly. We see Tony building the Iron Man suit, but we don't see enough conflict between him and Obadiah to keep the pacing taut. Imagine if the midpoint party scene where the reporter shows Tony the damage caused by his weapons had been moved earlier. We could have seen Tony actively investigating his company, confronting corruption sooner, and facing Obadiah's machinations more directly. That would have added tension, stakes, and drama. Still, the story does eventually bring Obadiah to the forefront. By the end of Act 2, he acquires the Ironmonger's suit and even steals Tony's arc reactor, leaving Tony at his lowest point. Structurally, this is a textbook second act setback, but it also serves a greater narrative purpose. The betrayal highlights the central theme of corruption and sets up Tony's final transformation. Obadiah isn't just a villain in the classic sense, he's a mirror of what Tony could become if he doesn't learn from his mistakes. This makes the climactic battle less about who will win and more about Tony's growth as a person. Using the original chess piece he built in the cave, Tony confronts Obadiah and stops the Ironmonger. But the true victory isn't just physical, it's emotional and moral. Tony's actions show that he has learned accountability, and his public reveal as Iron Man is the perfect conclusion. He's no longer hiding behind wealth, genius, or charm. He's transparent and responsible, ready to face the consequences of his choices. That moment isn't just fun, it's satisfying because it completes his arc. Visually, Iron Man still holds up remarkably well over a decade later. The CGI may be from 2008, but it hasn't aged in a way that distracts from the story. The aesthetic and style established here are visible in modern MCU films. The blend of realism with comic book spectacle set a standard for what a superhero movie could be. The world feels lived in, the technology plausible, and the characters grounded enough that even outlandish moments feel earned. And that realism extends to the comic book characters themselves. From Tony's genius to Pepper's competence, the filmmakers did justice to the source material without making the film feel cartoonish. It's a balance that many superhero films at the time struggled with, and it's a reason why Iron Man still resonates today. Of course, the film isn't perfect, the second act drags a bit, and the climactic fight with Ironmonger isn't as grand as later MCU battles. Watching it now, after years of escalating superhero spectacles, the final showdown may feel small, but in context, the stakes are personal and thematic. Tony's journey, his redemption, and the threat of his own creations falling into the wrong hands, that's what matters. Tony Stark's arc is fascinating because the film frames his transformation around what he needs, not just what he wants. He starts as a brilliant but shallow billionaire, a man lacking true purpose. By the end, he has heart, accountability, and a moral compass. This isn't just about Iron Man building a suit, it's about Tony learning to be a hero in every sense of the word, and that makes the post-credits scene teasing the future of the MCU feel earned. The foundation has been laid, and we now have a world that can grow in complexity, humor, and stakes. And here's a question for you. Which part of Tony Stark's character arc resonated the most with you? Was it his moral awakening, his witty charm, or the fact that he had to face the consequences of his own hubris? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your take on why Tony Stark remains one of the most compelling characters in modern cinema. In summary, Iron Man is more than a superhero movie. It's the perfect blend of character study, origin story, and blockbuster spectacle. The focus on corruption, personal growth, and accountability elevates it beyond a run-of-the-mill comic book adaptation. Robert Downey Jr.'s performance is the heart of the film, and the way the story structures his journey ensures that we are invested in both the character and the emerging MCU. It's a debut film that delivers on all fronts: story, spectacle, and character, and it set the tone for everything that came after. Whether you're a longtime MCU fan or watching Iron Man for the first time, the film is a fascinating look at how a hero is made. Not just by his technology or his battles, but by the choices he makes and the moral growth he undergoes. And that's why Tony Stark, the playboy, the genius, the man behind the suit, remains a hero for the ages. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it.